So now we're going to look at this date by trying to go inside the girl's head, figure out what's going on with her on a psychological level, and figure out how we can adjust to that. How you doing? I love that look. You're like, is this, he's attractive. Is this the one? I don't know. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Amazing.
I never come here, so...
Oh, very nice, very nice. Where, your accent French? You
Yes.
sound kind of oddly German.
I'm completely French.
Really? Interesting.
Yes. So you will have to speak slowly.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be very slow, very sweet. Shall we?
Yeah.
Just a little thing, but when she says French have to speak slowly, that's indicating to me that she's not completely like confident in her linguistic abilities. She's feeling a little nervous, a little shy. She's feeling the need to impress, or to at least not impress, right? Not be a disappointment, so to speak. So these are all factors I would consider. Also, if her language isn't good, right? There's a lot of different things that you're going to immediately adjust to. First of all, I'm going to immediately avoid, especially like phrases, right? The shoes on the other foot doesn't fly with foreigners. That's a horse of a different color. We're not saying those kind of things, okay? It's just confusing as shit if they aren't familiar with the culture. Speaking of culture, I'm going to avoid cultural references like TV references, references to American history, things like that, right? Because these are all things that will be over their head. So again, I want to be very aware of the girl I'm talking with and make sure that we communicate on a level of understanding. Especially again, because she's already like insecure about the language. I don't want to like make it a bigger gap than it already is. Oh man. So being French, does that mean you're very snobby about your wine?
Yeah, I don't like the wine here.
You don't like the wine here?
No, I prefer drinking beer.
Okay. Fair enough.
What about you?
I don't have the most sophisticated wine palate. I like whatever's fun and tasteful. How you doing? Get a wine and beer menu? Thanks. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm walking too much, but it's okay.
I'm sorry. You need more time to relax, chill out, hang out.
Yeah, I think I spend like more than 60 hours a week in the lab, but I came for that. So
Did you love it though?
yeah.
So some biography has been cut out here, but what you need to know is she's highly educated and she spends a lot of time at her work, okay? That's important, okay? Now, how does that play into her blueprint? Well, let's think about it. Highly educated, she probably expects other people to be generally highly educated, generally smart, those kind of things. So appearing like an idiot probably isn't going to be as effective with her, although you never know. Sometimes it can be refreshing. Sometimes she wants, just get physical, whatever. But, she's used to people that are of a certain intellectual nature, so being similar to that is definitely there. She works a lot. Now, that can mean, A, she's maybe pretty ambitious. Not necessarily, but she's pretty ambitious. It probably means that she doesn't go out a whole lot. She's not, dating a whole lot. She's maybe, she's also meeting me from online, so maybe not so good at meeting men in general, even though she is like a pretty girl. So these are all different things to factor in and weigh in. And also, her value system is likely to be skewed more towards being smart and being like a good person or personality traits rather than physical traits. Also, and this will come up actually as a topic of conversation in a little bit here, she is not wearing like a ton of makeup, that kind of stuff, because in that sort of professional environment, if she were super done up and she's coming just from work, that wouldn't really be professional, right? And so that's another aspect of it, right? So this is a girl, even though she's a very, very pretty girl, she is not pretty in the, or not considering herself pretty in the done up model-esque, I'm all about appearance first kind of way. So that all plays into her blueprint as well. Yeah. I can't do that. Like, yeah.
I love what I'm doing, but I hate my boss, and she drives me crazy.
Fair enough.
I love going there during the weekends.
Okay, can I do the Riesling and?
I think I'm gonna have Riesling.
Okay.
Riesling right now. Sorry.
Okay, what did you want?
I'll get the Omega. white beer. Yes.
Omega White. I don't know how to pronounce it, but yes. Cheers. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry. Put that away. Now you seem so cosmopolitan yet so like innocent at the same time because the whole small town thing. Although I think anybody from Europe, you grow up faster in Europe than in the US.
I don't think so.
No?
No. I've been here for 2 years and spent like 5 years already.
It seems like it's been 5 years?
Yeah. I'm getting older too fast.
Oh, poor thing.
I had my...
So she kind of missed my point here, but the point I'm making is a good one in terms of blueprint, which is European girls tend to have a different view of sex and sexuality than American girls do, right? America has sort of like the historical Puritan culture where like sex is considered dirty and sex is made a big deal of, whereas the European cultures tend to just treat sex as more of like just a normal part of life. And this leads to sort of a difference in what girls are looking for sexually. So in that Puritan culture, and also the other thing with the United States is it's a more stratified culture in terms of socioeconomics. There's a bigger gap between the rich and the poor. So the combination of those two things leads to girls really looking for a lot of value in terms of who they sleep with. Like they want to sleep with the high value guy, the celebrity, the DJ, the rock star, the like really successful business person, whatever. And less to do with connection, because they're viewing like sex as this like if like they're giving up something of themselves when they're having sex, or it's like a taboo thing, they don't want to like waste it, or if sex is a big deal, then they want to have it with someone who's a big deal, right? So there's a little bit more of that inclination in the United States, whereas in Europe there's a little bit like more of a bigger middle class in general, and sex isn't as big of a deal, and so they're not looking so much for the high value guy to have sex with. They're looking more for the guy that they connect with to have sex with, because again they're more open to having more sexual partners. That they don't think that having sex like defines you as a person in such a degree, that kind of thing. So the Europeanness, I think, as a general blueprint, obviously read the girl in front of you more so, but it leads to more sexually open. More okay with discussing sex and like less embarrassed about things sexual, but it also leads to a more comfort-centric blueprint as opposed to a value-centric blueprint.
First white hairs and...
Aww. Poor girl. You're alright, you're still looking.
Young? Oh, no, you.
How old am I? 34.
34?
Yeah. And you? I forgot.
I'm going to be 30 this year.
Congratulations.
How is it?
How is 30?
Still okay?
Every single year of my life has been better than the year before. So
I know you're thinking about it too.
What's true for me?
Until I came to New York. And it was just all downhill.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
If you had asked me last year, I would say no. I hate New York, but no.
I understand the outdoor thing. Beyond that, maybe you just need the right people to show you around.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm traveling more now. So.
I didn't even see that one. That's what I'm saying.
So you grew up in Colorado, and then?
Yes, which is probably similar to you, because it's like very outdoors, right? It's like hiking, skiing, that kind of stuff. Then I went to school in Texas for 2 years, then upstate New York for 2 years.
Where upstate? I have a friend.
I looked at RIT or where? Or I looked at there. I studied engineering, so once upon a time, long ago. Now this girl, given her blueprint, probably doesn't care nearly as much about the 30 thing as a lot of girls would. But for pretty much every girl, it is a bit of a milestone. Every girl kind of looks at it as like 30, I'm kind of getting old. 30, I'm kind of over the hill. I kind of want to be with a guy at least at that age. I want to maybe even settle down, that kind of stuff. This girl less so because of the European stuff and other things that are going to come later. But it's certainly a factor, right? It's certainly a factor that plays in. That's why you couldn't see the expression, but she kind of like her eyes kind of made a look when she mentioned the 30 thing. So it is kind of a big deal for girls. She maybe considers herself, again, a little on the old side or the mature side rather than the like fun, silly side of life. So that's another little factor to take into account when looking at the blueprint.
intriguing.
Part of me thinks that you're like crazy sweet and innocent, but I just don't at the same time. Actually, so here's a really interesting random question. So when you hadn't read my profile and then you read that part of my profile, what was the thought in your mind?
Say it again.
When like you hadn't read that section of my profile and then you read it, what was the thought in your mind? So I mentioned this in the full breakdown, but just in case you're watching this in isolation, remember in my profile I had these huge disclaimers about how I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm with a bisexual girl already. If she wants to do a threesome, fine. If she wants to just hook up, fine. If she wants to just be friends, fine. But absolutely, categorically not looking for a relationship. So this is what I'm quizzing her on, and so I'm basically assessing, in a way, how down she is for that sort of a situation, right? What are her feelings on it? What's she thinking about it? That sort of stuff. Mine's?
I don't know. Like, kind of honest, because most of the people in this website are there for the same thing as you are, but they don't admit it.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And I actually had a drink with a friend on Wednesday, and we talked a lot about open relationships.
Yeah.
Most of people just don't want to admit it.
Yeah. Well, I think most of the time, most relationships kind of start that way anyway. But
I don't know about here, but I feel like, it's less serious than in France, but in France everybody is cheating on everyone.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
They should admit that they have an open relationship and that's it.
Yeah. And this is why I love European girls.
Why?
I don't want to say smarter than American girls, more realistic than American girls, and also more like
I have the feeling that we don't want to get married at 25, and it's so American. All the American girls I know, they are fiancés and they want to get married, and the big dress.
Never.
My parents never been married.
Really?
My grandparents just divorced last year.
Okay.
It's not a French thing.
Not the French thing. So basically, my assessment of this is she's completely fine with it, right? She's completely fine with casual-ish sex. She understands, like, people cheat. She is cool with the open relationship thing. She even is maybe intrigued by the whole thing. So I'd say it's a big green light. I'd say this is not something that's going to be a massive obstacle for me with this particular girl. And it's very good to know that, because a lot of guys, if you didn't know that, would spend a lot of time talking about it or reassuring her about it or making her feel like it's okay or something like that. She's pretty much given me the green light that this is not something that's going to require a lot of extra explanation. This is not something that's going to be a big objection for her, et cetera, all right? So very important to note that and just not bother with that topic of conversation too much. I'm going to quote you on that one time. Somebody's going to be like, oh, no, the French don't do that.
You can say that.
Because you know the thing about being French, right? Forever and ever, or at least for the next 1,000 years, you guys, the French will be like the most culturally snobby, elite, like well-mannered nationality.
Actually, not really true.
Yeah. No, I don't mean that you actually are, but just the perception.
Yeah.
Like in English, if you say a word, like if you say a French phrase or whatever, it's like, oh, you're je ne sais quoi. They're like, oh, what the fuck? Oh, you what?
Like a cliché.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
It just seems so classy that like you could do the most awful things or be so uneducated or be so like that, but as long as you speak French, you're like, oh no, so classy, so smart.
It's good to know.
It's good. Yeah, you just get away with anything. And the accent, it's golden. That's why you should never learn perfect English. Keep the accent, just because like you'll get away with murder. It'll be great.
I think even if I try, I will never get better. So.
You're lucky. I wish I had an accent.
What kind of accent? You can fake it.
I could learn, yeah. I could. That'd be like truly fake, right? Go take like an accent class, like learn to speak an
How
accent.
do you want to come from? I'm French, but I'm not sophisticated.
I'm not sophisticated.
I'm
sorry, it's really nice meeting you. I have to go.
Write on in your profile. Like, you like hot girls.
I mean, I do. But hot is... I don't like a girl who has to try hard to be hot. So here now, this is an interesting thing. I think she's feeling a little insecure. Like I've done a lot, and I've seemed like a pretty cool, high value guy, that sort of stuff. And I also have in my profile, I am pretty blatant about the fact that physical appearance does matter to me, that kind of stuff. So she's maybe feeling insecure. She's like, do I fit this guy's profile? Am I his type? Does he like me? That kind of stuff. And it's good to be aware of this, because the practical adjustment is I'm going to do less of sort of like value, and more sort of comfort, and specifically more qualifying her, more finding out what's cool about her and acknowledging what's cool about her, okay? So again, she's telling me where she's at, and by telling me where she's at, she tells me what I need to do next with her. I like the girl that rolls over next to you in bed, looks you in the eye, and just like, damn. Not the girl that has to spend like 3 hours being hot. That's not hot. That's like fake. Or the girl that has to spend $80,000 being hot. Either or. It's not the same thing.
10 minutes in the bathroom in the morning, and I don't do anything with my hair. I'm sorry. They are at the weather decide.
So see what I did there? I took what she is, her characteristics that I know are fairly true about her, and I basically said, I think that's what's attractive. But I didn't say, I think you're attractive because you have these characteristics. I let her fill in, oh, that's me. Right? So I'm like, yeah, well, I think this is what's attractive. She's like, no, yeah, I'm no time in the morning, da-da-da-da. Right? So instead of saying, I like you because of this, I said, I like girls that are like this, and she said, I'm like this. Right? It's a much more effective form of qualifying, because because she actually jumped through the hoop. She actually made the effort rather than me just giving it to her out of nothing. The way that is it? I could appreciate that. You seriously, like, you do these expressions that it's like the look that I used to do when I was like a little kid that got me into trouble and out of trouble both.
I don't know you, so it's kind of weird, right? You might be used to that, but I'm not. So.
How do you mean? Again, she's telling me about her situation, right? I just met you, so it's kind of weird. She's telling me that she's not used to, maybe not used to dating, or she wants things to go at least a little bit slow. She wants to get to know me a little bit more. This is also in line with the blueprint that I'm already kind of working on, which is that it's more comfort-centric rather than value-centric, right? It's just more information to add to how to game her. And again, remember, girls will tell you how to sleep with them. You just have to listen.
I mean, we are talking, it goes well, but I don't really know you, so kind of shy.
Me too.
Yeah.
So shy.
I don't believe that.
Why not? Nobody ever believes me when I say that. Ever. Used to be. What does that mean when the girl says she doesn't believe you're shy? Does it mean, like, is she talking about shyness specifically? Probably not. What she's actually talking about is the fact that I seem confident, the fact that I seem comfortable around girls, the fact that if anything I seem playerish. She's read my profile. It's the most playerish profile you could possibly imagine, right? And so what she's saying basically is you are not the shy guy that doesn't get girls, and you're probably not the provider frame guy. You are the lover frame guy. So she's pointing out that she is aware of that frame, right? Now, why is that useful to me? It means that I don't have to over harp on it, because I do want to be that guy. I do want to be in that frame. If I didn't think she thought I was there already, I would have to drop more value, do more things to like point that out. As is, if she already thinks that about me, I don't have to do as many, so I can tone that down a bit. That was like okay, so.
But you make people comfortable.
Thank you.
That's really nice.
That's actually a really good compliment. Thank you. I appreciate that. Obviously, that is a really huge compliment, especially if she has a value-centric blueprint, like I said. But the thing I love about it is she didn't say you make me comfortable. She said you make people comfortable, right? And that is very different. Because if she said you make me comfortable, that would be sort of a providery, sort of like I have a lot of comfort with you kind of a thing. When she says you make people comfortable, what she's saying is you're socially savvy. You don't make girls feel slutty. You don't make girls feel bad about themselves. You don't raise red flags. So she's actually saying sort of, I think, playerish things about me, but she's saying I'm good at it. Like, I'm not a cheesy player. I'm like the kind of player that gives a good experience, right? So it's actually a tremendous, tremendous compliment. But I want to point out, I don't take this as a, like, you actually make, she didn't say you make me feel comfortable. She said you make people feel comfortable. It's a key distinction in terms of what's actually being said there.
I mean, you make me.
Now she said I make her feel comfortable, right? So now that's awesome. That's like the best of both worlds. She just basically said you're a high value, high statusy guy who knows how to like attract women, and I feel comfortable with you, i.e. I really like you. So that's why I take this to mean a lot in terms of the interaction. As of right now, I'm like, this girl really, really likes me.
Doctor's order.
I like that.
Hey, doctor's order.
I hope I make you feel like comfortable enough.
Enough to what?
Huh? I would never want you to be. If that would like. I always feel like the best way for someone to be around someone is like comfortable, but not completely comfortable. So what I'm about to do here is I'm explaining the lover-provider thing without explaining the lover-provider thing, right? What I'm basically saying is I'm glad that you feel comfortable around me. Don't be confused and think that I'm a provider. Don't get comfortable in that way. So here's what I'm saying is I want you to be comfortable but not too comfortable, i.e. I want you to be comfortable that I won't make you feel slutty. I want you to be comfortable that I won't use and abuse you, that I'll make sure you have a good experience. I don't want you to be comfortable that you can have me, or comfortable that like you can keep me from other girls, or comfortable that like I'm going to call you 10 times a day, that kind of thing, okay? So what I'm doing here, this is a very, very subtle way of just reminding her, this is good, but let's remember, I am not the provider, I am the lover, okay? It's a very subtle message, but it's definitely what I'm trying to communicate to her. Because if you're too comfortable, you get lazy, and then you stop like being your best self.
I see.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
I'm not that comfortable yet, so.
That's exactly the response I wanted. Right? That's exactly the response I wanted. I'm not that comfortable yet, so da-da-da-da. Perfect response. Message delivered, message received. Let me know. If we get too comfortable, we'll be like, okay, it was nice, it was fun. Pleasure meeting you. Be on your way now.
You just say I can do whatever I want. I'm French.
Yeah. Just do whatever. We'll just assume that's like the in vogue thing. How does that make sense in context? Right? I just remember I'm French, I can do whatever I want. On the literal level, it doesn't. That has nothing to do with this comfort discussion we just had. But it has everything to do with the discussion we actually had, which is the I am the lover, not the provider discussion. Do you see that? How interesting is that? She's actually responding to what I didn't say, not to what I did say.
I do that too.
Just because. Like, oh, that's what they're doing in France? Okay, fair enough.
For like 4 days. And then I know I just get this urge to like eat
Not bad,
one
though.
protein
You,
like one bad thing. Then after I eat that one bad
Your English may not be good, or may not be the best, but you have a good sense of humor.
I have a good sense of what?
Humor?
and then
Yeah, I guess, but it's really hard in English. When it's not your mother language, you cannot make jokes. And no, don't say
Poor
that.
Sophie.
It's so frustrating.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know because when I go to Europe, right? If I go to Europe, because people there speak English, but they don't speak English.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what I'm about to explain here is dealing with the European blueprint in terms of how to speak to them. So take this as a lesson. I'm basically teaching her pickup right now. But it is what I told you before about you can't be too complicated with the language. You got to keep it more simple, keep it more direct, and keep it more to the point. However, as I am telling this story, think about the subtle other story that I'm telling. Okay, the subtle other story I'm telling is that I'm very attractive and girls respond very strongly to me. Because I'm going to talk about some girl that I was joking with her and she was like almost in tears, meaning this hot girl was very, very reactive to me. Okay, so there's the story I'm telling her and the story I'm telling you about pickup, so listen to that, but also listen to what I'm conveying about myself obliquely. And remember, if you want to convey positive qualities about yourself, you have to do them in this non-braggy way. If you're like, oh, you know, all these girls were attracted to me in Europe, that's really fucking cheesy, and it makes you look really lame. But if you're like, oh yeah, this crazy thing happened in Europe, it was so frustrating, and then you tell a story of a girl being very attracted to you, but like there was a communication barrier, now you've conveyed it in a way that wasn't try hard. And so, as long as I'm sincere and like direct about how I communicate, they get it. But as soon as I'm like sarcastic,
Yeah, you can get
as soon as
that.
like, or like, okay, so first time I went to, one of the first times I went to Europe, I was in Amsterdam, where they actually like, of all the places they should speak good English, like it's actually a national language. They're like, they really should. But I was talking to this girl, she was very sweet, she was really into me, and I was just teasing her because she said something like a little bit like shady. And I was like, oh my god, you're a bad girl, I can't hang out with you. And she said something that could be interpreted as like naughty or criminal or devious or like could get you in trouble. Like just like not, it wasn't the most angelic thing she could say.
That you understand this way.
No, I was just like, oh, you're such a bad girl, right? Just like as a joke. And she got really offended. She's like, I'm not a bad girl. I'm so good. I'm like, no, I'm kidding. She's like, no, what? And she like almost was crying. I'm like, no, it's a joke. Calm down, relax. Anyway.
I guess it depends how you've been educated, right?
Well, I think it's hard because, you know, like you said, the accents, right? British versus Australian. It's the tone of voice. And so if the words themselves are a struggle, it's hard to hear the tone of voice.
I think it's because I get too low on my calories. And then
I won't be offended.
I get these fucking urges that I can't handle.
By anything that I do, ever.
So.
Be careful. I won't be offended and I say by anything I say ever, etc. When she says I won't be offended, the way that I read that is I'm not that innocent. Does that make sense? Right? It's not that like I'm like so tough and you won't offend me. It's that I'm not that innocent. I get it. I know that the world is a sexual place. I know that like you're the type of guy you are. I'm not worried of getting my heart broken, that sort of thing. Interestingly enough. So I'm reading this on a very different level than the literal level. I just want to kind of point that out to you. What you say? Yeah. You could get yourself in trouble saying that, but whatever.
Yeah. When I was saying that, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Why do I seem like trouble?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Efforts must be redoubled. Duly noted. Again, I don't seem like trouble. Okay, I'll have to try harder. What am I again conveying? What am I emphasizing over and over and over again? Not the provider. Not the provider. Not the provider, okay? I'm being very, very clear about this. I'm being subtle about it. Each individual instance is subtle, but it's this recurring theme over and over and over again. I don't want her to, at any point, start to think that I might be the provider.
It's over. It's
I do like your You're cute when you do the little semi blush.
You heard of this app where it's like
Blush. Please tell me you don't not know that word. I'm going to teach you so much English.
Sorry.
That's okay. Blush is when your face flushes a little bit because you're like just a little bit.
No, I don't flush.
Never. Really?
Maybe.
Oh, look at that. Just a little bit? Okay. It's not a bad flush. It's both. Flush means turn red, just from anything. So if it's hot out, you could flush. If it's you've been running, you could flush. Blush is when you flush specifically because it's like awkward or embarrassing or because you're nervous. So flushing is a physical thing. Blushing is when it's for a particular reason.
Thanks.
I'll be here all week, here to help you with your, Tell you what, you teach me biology, I'll teach you English, all right?
I'm doing plant biology.
Plant biology, yeah. So I'm going to tell you this, and if you think I'm dumb after hearing it, you can leave. It's totally fine, okay? This probably could have gone on the basic or the general sort of breakdown layer, but I just want to point out that the fact that I can teach her English is another way of offering value to her. It's another way of being an authority in her world. And it's another thing that, because she's going to have to ask me what words mean, and she's going to feel silly and even a little like ridiculous or even stupid while doing that, it's another reason why I inherently have value and I don't have to try as hard to have value in this interaction. So it's something to be aware of, both in terms of it's a useful frame to take, and also it's useful in understanding how the value dynamic is going to kind of play out. So I've been really good at almost everything academically ever. Like I was always the kid that never had to study, passed every test, crushed every test, whatever. Right? Huh?
The lazy guy.
The lazy guy. And the thing was, I could always figure it out. Like for example, in high school physics, we had like the like AP test, the like highest level test in high school, whatever. And I got the test, and it was 3 questions long. One of the 3 questions, I looked at it, and I'd never seen it before. I was like, I've never seen any of this material. I have no idea. I don't even know. So I did the other 2, and I came to it, and then I like looked at the units of measure on the answers, and I backwards engineered what the equation had to be from the units of measurement, and like got the right answer. So like I'm really good whenever like you can figure stuff out, which like in physics and math you can.
Logic, right?
Exactly. But the problem, biology, you can't.
I have bad memory. I will remember your name.
I mean, you forgot.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I was gonna say you forgot my name.
No, but maybe I won't remember the
I didn't want to have sex.
first drink or don't be
That to me,
offended.
that kind of hit like something like this.
So I have my work cut out to make myself
That to me was
memorable.
like a dream
Yeah.
for so long. And I actually
I'll
got
keep
there
that in
and
mind.
what the fuck, like,
I'll try very hard not to be forgettable.
so I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll just take
Okay.
no fap. So I did no fap.
It's not that hard.
I love that look.
First week, 2 weeks before this.
The like very shy, confident look.
Just like go down there and like touch.
Are you okay? So you are a little shy.
Yeah.
I like the earring, by the way. And this one, huh? That's cute.
Devil.
Well, I was thinking this one, but I didn't even notice that one until for a second. So you are shy, but you're also confident, though.
Tiniest things turn you on.
I used to be before living in New York, actually.
You used to be confident before.
You gotta like.
New York did that to you?
Yeah, New York did bad things to me.
Yeah. So, but I used to be shy. But you still claim to be.
I don't claim to be shy, but first the language is hard. It's hard to meet new people, actually. I mean, not that hard.
I mean, can I step back and like aside from this for a second?
No, I told you.
So here I'm about to give the girl a pretty genuine series of compliments. I'm basically gonna like just be like, look, you are a pretty girl. You have your shit together. Be a little confident. Get it together, right? Now, most guys could not get away with this because putting the girl up on a pedestal, giving so many compliments, it's clear they like her, that kind of stuff, right? That said, so much of what I've done is high value so far. Also, the tone and the frame of giving the compliment is I'm saying like, hey, you have these things going for you. Get your shit together, right? Or you have these things going for you, be confident. So it's a compliment, but from a position of authority as though I know more about the world and I'm doing it genuinely to help her. Not to like flatter her and get in her pants, not because I'm afraid of offending her, because clearly I've already teased her and done things that could be offensive, right? It's a compliment that is just, it's very matter of fact, it's from a high value place, and if anything, as I'm lifting her self-esteem and her value up, by the very process of doing it, I'm, if anything, lifting mine as well. Okay, now I want to be very clear on this. I give girls tons of compliments, but I compliment them from this frame of you're getting complimented by the high-value guy. You're being given a gift by this abundant man, not I'm complimenting you so maybe you'll accept me. It's a very important distinction.
Question.
A, no, I'm just gonna talk at you for a minute. A, you're a pretty girl. B, you're
It's subjective.
A, you're not an unattractive girl.
I don't like this double negation.
Huh?
It's never good.
Double negation's
No, no,
never
no.
good.
The last one was like alternative crap.
Well, then you're a pretty girl.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I've heard it.
You
Have you heard
have a good sense of
Up on
humor.
Melancholy Hill by-
You're not entire. You know, you're somewhat
That's actually-
educated, not fully stupid, right?
I have heard.
To some, at least, you have something of a refreshing attitude, at least compared to certain American girls.
Refreshing.
Refreshing. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess I know what does that mean, but I think the context.
It doesn't mean fresh again.
No.
It doesn't. That's not what it means. Refreshing is like, it's like when it's really hot and you're really thirsty, you drink water. It's refreshing. Or like you jump in a pool and it's like kind of like shocking a little bit, but it like wakes you up in a positive way. That's refreshing.
I waked you up. I woke up.
Well, I mean, let's take it slow. I mean, we just met. I mean, let's not. One of us waking the other one up's a little far along at this point. But
I agree.
I mean, as much as you know, rolling over and finding Sophie wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think we should take it slow. I love your expressions. I can't even deal with it.
Sorry.
It's alright. But well, I guess where I'm going with this is like,
It's called.
I don't feel like you would have trouble meeting people if you tried.
If I was.
If you tried.
No.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just don't have time.
Too busy.
Yeah, and
Too
my
busy
English
with
is
the plant
no,
biology.
actually I'm shy because my English is not good, so I keep asking you things.
You learn fast. You learned like 5 words since you met me.
Yeah, but if you ask me tomorrow, I won't be able to explain all of them. But that's okay.
I just have to give you like a strong attachment to them. This one may be a stretch. I almost wasn't gonna like pause and break this down, but she said, if you ask me tomorrow, I probably won't remember. Think about that sentence for a second. If you ask me tomorrow, What does that imply already, right? It's just an expression, yes. But if you ask me tomorrow means, to me, in my assumptive head, it means when we roll over together in bed tomorrow. If you were to ask me, I probably won't remember. Even a step less than that is if you ask me tomorrow means I'm pretty sure I want to continue communicating with you after this date, right? It's a subtle implication, but it's there, right? And I don't think she's thinking of it that way. I don't think she's trying to say it that way. But if she had already closed off in her mind the possibility of seeing me tomorrow or seeing me again, those words are less likely to be the words that would naturally come to her head, right? So yes, I read a lot into things. I'm aware of that. And definitely I read a lot into things in a positive way, which, maybe is part of why I'm so narcissistic and part of why I'm good at game. But I actually do believe that when girls say these kind of things that imply other things, you should read in what the other thing is. So in this case, I take this as a huge indicator of interest.
Yeah, it looks to me like you are exclusive, you build a family, you have kids, and then you stop being non-exclusive.
That's what like people look like in general, or yeah. I think honest assessment philosophy is this. Is like, I think that whenever two people are together in whatever way, it should be because they want to be. Right? So there's two things going on here in what I'm about to say. First is she needs some reassurance that she's not completely like meaningless to me, or that at least there's like some plausible level in which I have respect for her. I'm not just completely using her. But also, my answer here is the same kind of answer I've given when I wasn't in a serious relationship, when I just was dating multiple girls and I wanted to make girls okay with open relationships and girls okay with dating multiple people at the same time. So this is a little bit of my premise on that. So if you're looking to have multiple long-term relationships, open relationships, this kind of philosophy is very, very useful. And this is the philosophy that you should be together with someone because of the joy of it, the pleasure of it, rather than the obligation of it. And this is the philosophy I believe personally. It's also a philosophy that is very, very, very in tune with the whole like secret society idea. The idea of being the guy who's in the know, the guy who girls cheat on their boyfriends with, as opposed to the guy who gets cheated on. So it's actually extremely high value as an outlook as well. Okay. So there's a lot going on here on multiple levels in terms of the psychology for her, the psychology of how I'm conveying myself, and the psychology of what category I'm putting myself into biologically in terms of evolution for her. And so like you and I, right? If we hang out and have an amazing time together, and like we enjoy hanging out, we should hang out because we like hanging out, but not because we're obligated to, or not because like you own me or I own you or anything like that,
I
right?
agree with that.
And in a sort of a weird way, whenever you can't do something, it just makes you want to do it more.
Yeah, I completely agree on that.
So what kind of happens, I guess, over time is that like you have all the options and you enjoy all the options and everyone else enjoys the options with you, whatever. But
you're not afraid to meet somebody that you like more than her?
So here's the... Afraid's a weird word. No, I'm not. So here's the thing I tell her, and I don't think she really, really likes me, so I don't think it would ever happen, but if it did, it did. I always say, if somehow, like as amazing as she and I are together, if she ever met someone who was actually better for her, then she should go with him. I'd be a little sad, but I'd be really happy for her too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
But that said, nobody's better than me, so it's fine. I'm just the best. What?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you agree with me on that.
You need to use the bathroom.
By all means, down the way. One last little bit I want to point out at the very end of that. So I'm talking about sort of in the third person, if my girlfriend were to meet some guy she liked more than me, et cetera, how I would feel about that. However, the implication for her, because I'm in the same situation, I'm in the same relationship that my girlfriend's in, right? So the same should apply for me. So what I'm doing here is I'm giving her the tiniest sliver of hope. Tiniest little sliver of hope that if she somehow were the most amazing girl ever for me, there's a possibility that she could keep me, right? I want her to know, like with all her logical mind, that this isn't going to go anywhere. she's not going to get all clingy. It's not going to be dramatic for me. She's going to be okay with the open relationship. She's going to understand if and when I just like, hey, we can't do anything anymore, I have a relationship. I want her to be completely on board and understanding of all that. However, in her female psychology, especially like if she's going to hang out with me tonight, if she's going to have like really good sex with me, she's going to get like very emotionally drawn to me, there has to be that tiny little bit where she can suspend disbelief, where she can think there's a chance or there's a possibility. She needs just that tiny little sliver of hope, and that's what I just said is all about giving her. I was just thinking like you were typing and so your hands were probably sore, so I was trying to like, help them feel better.
I'm stressed. Okay.
Don't be shy.
That's weird.
What? What's weird?
Okay.
I said don't be shy?
Yeah.
You don't need to. Just be you.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
If I like you as you, great. If I don't like you as you, then I'm stupid. In your opinion. And same, if you don't like me as me, then I'm like, oh, she's dumb. Whatever. Fair enough.
So far so good.
So obviously the kiss is good. It bonds us together. I think I already knew she liked me. She's already saying a lot of positive things. She's already emotionally invested. So that's all very, very good. But then when she says so far so good, that's the logical acknowledgement. We've kissed. I like you. I'm good with how things are going. To me, that's a massive, massive green light. She's saying like, I like you. I'm on for sex. Like all signals are positive. All roads are go. So far so good. Well, thank you. I'm glad you like me. I mean, we should take our time and get to know each other. But like seriously, like nothing to be insecure about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you, I feel comfortable. Which is weird because I don't know you're a psychopath. I used to love Dexter,
You love to. If a girl ever says to you, I feel comfortable, which is weird because I don't know you that well, it's like a massive indicator you're going to have sex with her. Like if you ever hear that phrase, you should be thinking, if I don't fuck this up, I'm having sex with this girl, right? Conversely, funny enough, when things are going pretty well for me, in order to indicate to a girl that sex is on the table, but without mentioning sex or being cheesy, sometimes I'll say to her, why do I feel so comfortable with you? This is so strange for me. So I actually like speak the girl language back to her, right? The thing that girls say that indicates this without indicating it, I'm aware of it. I've heard it a lot of times. So I say it. I basically act as though I'm going through the same experience that they're going through. I verbalize the experience of being seduced, right? Which does two things. One, it indicates to her where I'm at. Two, it puts her in the frame that she's seducing me rather than I'm seducing her, which is a much better frame for me to be in. That's funny. Really? That's funny. I actually like that show too, but not my favorite, but it was good.
I have to go to California.
Yeah, you should.
I'm looking for a job there. They don't want me.
So what, you want to stay in the US after your terrible experience in New York?
Yeah, kind of. I think I chose the wrong place in the US because the country looks pretty wide everywhere except New York, right?
Right. It's like, well, New York, Boston, Chicago. Like, you just have to not,
I visit my friends and it's too wide. I don't want to live there.
Like too flat?
Yeah. No, like too empty and there's nothing to do there. Too cold and I can't live there.
You might like LA or California.
Yeah, she's moving to LA actually.
So LA is like, there's a lot of buildings, but it's like goes out forever, but it is buildings as opposed to like just building. Here it's just up, right? So, problem with LA is the traffic. No, you say that, but it's really bad. Like it's really
I'm trying to get
bad.
my driving license there.
Yeah. Do you have one in?
Yeah. I have the.
Can't you just like transfer it over?
No, that's so bad. I was allowed to drive the first year, but after 1 year resident in New York, you cannot drive anymore.
You have to like go pass a test.
Yeah.
So why don't you go take the test?
Yeah, I did the right.
You're just too lazy. You're just like, I'm too lazy.
No, I don't find the time. It's like you have to do half a day, but I'll do it. I paid for it already, so I just have to take time for it.
Okay. You're so insecure. You're so shy. It's cute.
Now?
Obviously.
Yeah? Okay.
Is accurate?
It's so fucking
I look insecure.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Like,
Just little
so dog
little
style.
things.
What's the worst thing about dogs?
Yeah, I know my face.
What about it?
The poker face. I can play poker actually. You say you were professional in poker, I can. I'm so expressive.
Actually, I was just trying to figure out like what makeup you are and are not wearing. So eyelashes a little bit.
Yeah,
That's it. Anything on lips or no?
I tried one today. I went to the Sephora with a friend.
Even your parents.
Otherwise, no.
If there was one major
Does it look funny on you? Like if you put makeup on, do you
Yeah,
look funny? Yeah.
I look like
Like a clown?
me, yeah.
No, not you. You have a good clean look though. You have a good like wake up next to someone in the morning and they don't look like a monster look. It's nice. It's the other thing in the United States, right? That's the danger. You go out, you meet a girl at a club, she's so hot. In the morning she rolls over and you're like, oh my god, what's that?
that happened to you.
Huh? Not quite that bad, but yeah. Like it's just not quite the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the good point of
Go to bed with beauty, wake up with the beast. Sorry. So obviously this is just more qualifying, right? Because again, we need more comfort. I want to get more connection with her, all that kind of stuff. It's just chilling out, qualifying. Again, not being pushy. I kissed her once. I don't want to be push, kiss, right? You don't want to become cheesy and obvious once you start. You want to maintain the sexual tension rather than destroying it.
Yeah.
So Asian people are going to take over the world.
You have to learn Chinese.
We have to learn Chinese. Yeah, that and the white people need to start multiplying like the Chinese so we can have 1 billion of us and then, then we can compete.
You want to multiply yourself?
I mean, it wasn't an offer, I just met you. But,
Maybe you already did.
Maybe you already did. Interesting, right? What's she implying? She's implying that I'm a little player and I have little bastards running around all over the place, which... I mean, to be fair, she's probably not far from the truth in terms of like assessing my character. But it's very important to note that this is how she's viewing me. Would she say this to an average guy? Probably not, right? But because of the way I behave, because of the way I'm acting, it's very clear I'm that type of guy. So it's important to note that she's definitely seeing me as that type of guy. What does that mean? It means she's probably pretty aroused by me. It means she might not be entirely comfortable yet, depending on what she's looking for from me, but it means she's definitely putting me in that right category. The general concept I'm not opposed. I think the world could use more Todd, but like, it's like, man, I've only just met you. You're cute and you're fun, but...
I don't know. Yeah, do you have kids?
Do I have kids?
Not that you know.
See, she even repeated it. Like, she's so certain, like she's so sure of it. Because if this were, 10,000 BC, and I was acting the way that I was, how many bastard children would I have, right? So biologically, I'm the guy that would have, kids running around in 10 different tribes. So she's just basically reflecting on that fact, and so much so that she's now brought it up twice. I've said that before, none that I'm aware of.
It's good to be a girl for that.
Because then you know?
Yeah.
Maybe. Suppose so. I mean, the process of creating a kid is a lot more arduous for a girl, but yeah. You're on this world for a certain amount of time, and you can either have experiences during that time or not have experiences during that time. I'd much rather have a lot of experiences. I'd much rather, even have experiences and make mistakes and have stories than to be, the person that never did anything. Along with the lover-provider distinction, there's what I call short-term versus long-term mating strategy. And so long-term mating strategy is I'll build assets and wealth and have cars and have a resume and entice a girl with money and that kind of thing. Short-term mating strategy is I'm going to go with the experience, I'm going to swashbuckle and challenge men to duels for their girlfriends and sneak out of windows as women cheat on their husbands with me, and I'm going to, take crazy, flight to Europe on a moment's notice even when I can't afford it, etc. The short-term mating strategy is highly, highly correlated with the lover mindset. So what I'm doing here is I'm explaining that philosophy, which is the philosophy that I want a life full of memories, a life full of experiences, a life that is, worth telling about, a life that's worth telling stories about. And this is also very in alignment with the way girls think, because girls are very much passionate, following their emotions, going for adventures, those kind of things. Most women are risk averse, so they won't actually act on those fantasies, but they have them. And if they get a chance to act on them safely, they would absolutely love to do that. As far as it goes. Fair enough. So you're so European.
Why?
You just are like your expressions.
How do you know that they are European?
Okay, this one's going to be a little eerie. So she just looked at me in the exact same way that my German ex-girlfriend from 10 years ago used to look at me. And she also is very much like the same resume stereotype of foreign person, working in a highly educated analytical field, but at the same, and also very, very pretty girl, but also not a lot of makeup, sort of that like natural beauty type of look. So she's almost exactly the stereotype of the same girl. And so for that reason, I've already read her profile, read her blueprint quite a bit, and I have a pretty good idea of who she is. But at that moment, it just clicked for me, and I was like, holy shit, this is like the sequel of this other girl. And that does happen. That happens so often when you have tons of experience with different girls. You'll be talking to a girl, and she'll do something, you're like, oh, that's this blueprint. And from then on, you almost know exactly what to do with them because you've just been there before. You've seen it before, especially if like that's someone you dated a long time, or if it's someone who you were successful with the first time around. It's just muscle memory at that point, right? So you just snap in, and it pretty much is that. And that's when I said you're so European. What I meant is I was equating her to you're exactly like this German girl I know. And so it's just like a flash for me, and I just like got it. It was like I just like solved her, right, intuitively. Now, obviously, if you don't have a ton of experience, that's not going to happen at first, but it is a benefit of getting a lot of experience. I just want to point out that like this is the moment when I was just like, holy shit, I just feel completely comfortable with this girl, and I just know that we're going to have chemistry, and I know it's going to be good because she's literally just like inch perfect the same as this other girl personality-wise. Now, that seems kind of demeaning to both of them. That's not actually literally true. They have different experiences and stuff like that, but just their blueprint for what they're looking for sexually and what they're looking for in a relationship, and a lot of their view of the world is very, very similar because they've had similar backgrounds, similar experiences, those kind of things. Which is very different than American, in a good way. You have this sort of like, I feel like American people, like American girls in particular, are very like in your face about things. Like it's very like, I want to impress up front, I want to make this impression, I want to be noticed, whatever. Whereas you're much more like low key and like much more just like you're just you. But then there are certain things like when pressed, like if I hit on a particular point or like something you're proud about or whatever, you mean this very like obstinate look, like that very like, you know, the look of like a little kid who's really proud of something. That's like just like.
When did I react like that? For what?
I'll tell you next time you do it. I don't know.
Okay.
You do it periodically.
But I think that's true. Most of the guy I met was like, they need to prove that they are amazing at something. They say amazing all the time.
US or in France?
Here in the US. Like everything is amazing.
Everything's amazing.
Yeah, you haven't used these words.
I shall endeavor not to.
About what?
Huh?
About what?
I shall endeavor not to use the word amazing. I don't know. I feel like if you really are something, you don't have to tell people.
They figure out by themselves.
Michael Jordan doesn't have to say I'm good at basketball. A couple of the best poker players in the world. I was very dedicated.
You decided to do that. You were young and you wanted to make money.
How long of a story do you want to hear?
Yeah, from the beginning.
From the beginning. So you're intrigued by me. I'm flattered. Thank you, Sophie. So sweet. I'll give you the short version. So when
American expression, I love this expression.
give you the short version.
To make the long story short.
Yeah. I'm gonna try it in this case because you said I want to know everything. You literally said, "What's your life story?" So I mean, I'm glad you find me that.
Life is all about poker, right?
I'm glad you find me that fascinating, Sophie. I'm very flattered. It's very sweet of you.
He just said that on my drop bar.
So I mentioned this in like the top layer analysis. Obviously, this is a huge indicator. She wants to know my whole life story, that kind of thing. The one thing I want to point out here is that once these kind of questions start coming up, you're in danger of getting too much into a provider frame. You're in danger if you answer them the wrong way, or if you allow the conversation to become too calm and boring and platonic. You're in danger of giving her the impression that you want something really relationship-y and that you really want to spend hours and hours and hours getting to know her and that kind of stuff, which by all means, getting to know her is not bad, but you need to keep reminding her that you are this type of guy and you are a challenge. If she ever gets the feeling that she has you, or worse yet, that she's entitled to you and you owe her something, then you're in big trouble. All right, so you always need to leave that little bit of sexual tension, that little bit of hard to get present. And as things get too comfortable, which, you know, we're starting to get very comfortable with each other, it's very important to be aware of that. I feel like you'd be a fun person to take on an adventure. I feel like, meaning I think, you'd be a fun person to take on an adventure.
Yeah, definitely.
Spontaneous, adventurous.
Yep.
I'll keep that in mind.
Good to know. So you have a lot of candidates on your list.
What, for adventures?
Yeah. That's the.
Knowing how this ends up going, I probably should have noticed this at the time of. Because is she open for adventure? Yes. Is she spontaneous? Yes. But then she immediately had a shit test, which was you have a lot of candidates for these adventures, which is a comfort-based shit test, i.e., I'm down, I like you, the adventure sounds great, but I want to feel a little bit more special, right? And knowing what's going to occur in this interaction, which is I'm going to try and go ahead and like pull her, and then she's going to kind of surprisingly resist me, like in a way that actually shocked me at the time. I should have noticed this and maybe taken account of it because the signs were there, right? The signs were there to keep me from making the mistake I did, but I just missed them in this case in the live set.
One of the first questions you asked me if I was
Adventurous? It's important. I don't like people that are like boring and not open to having fun, trying new things.
I came in the US by myself. I like traveling.
I respect that.
It's backpacking. But I'm too shy.
You have to stop being so cute.
I'm not saying criminalism, but like just like very they don't even have just because like that's an invasion. That's how they're actually like respect. Imagine you see this person.
I actually like your hair. I didn't want to kiss you anymore. I just want to play with your hair. That's good.
Why?
Huh? Why is it good? Because it's thick
white.
and curly, but still not awful. They're white. They're not white. They're brown. I don't see any white. I have white hairs. You don't have white hairs. I'm an old man with too much stress in his life.
No, you don't have white hair.
Somewhere on the sides, I do a little bit.
But you still have hairs.
I still have hairs.
Yeah, that's much better to have white hair than no hair.
I'm gonna look really sophisticated one day. Like really, you know, Richard Gere. I'm gonna be Richard Gere one day. White hair,
One day.
sexy and sophisticated. That's gonna be me. I'll look like I'm like 40 for the next 40 years. So there's something I want you to notice about this kiss. It has nothing to do with lips. It has to do with her hand. Okay? The fact that her hand is stroking the back of my neck right now, very, very important. When I'm looking at physical escalation, I care a lot less how far I get with physical escalation than I do about how much she's participating. So during this kiss, she's participating more than me. She's escalating it further. That's an intensely good sign. Okay? That's very, very, very important and very key to what you're actually looking for. Because remember, you're escalating not to tick check boxes, you're escalating to build the sexual tension. And if she's escalating more than you, that means there's more tension coming your way than going away from you, i.e. it's building. Okay? Very, very key to note.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think,
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Glad you did.
I'm glad you're glad.
I think they do want it worse than you.
Even if it's awkward.
You know what?
Awkward.
Why?
We met 1 hour ago.
Here's another great sign. First of all, that I'm glad I enjoyed it. I'm glad you did. That's always very good. That's a very good positive indicator, and that's what I noticed at the time, which is why I was thinking, okay, seed, time to take her home. But then this, even if it's awkward thing, that's another sign I should have noticed. Right? I should have noticed this, that she's not completely ready yet. Even though she really likes me, even though she's very aroused by me, that kind of stuff, she just doesn't quite feel comfortable yet. Right? So again, there were signs, right? When later on I'm going to try for the pull and it doesn't quite work, shockingly, I shouldn't necessarily have been so shocked. And maybe I should have seeded the pull a little bit better, stronger, maybe been a little more patient with it. Because again, there's these signs that at the time I actually missed. Probably like an hour and a half at this point.
Okay.
That's why you're operating.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I do think we should take things slow, but it doesn't mean we can't enjoy each other along the way.
I'm okay with that. I don't know how long I will stay in New York.
Fair enough. I'll try not to get too attached so I can get my heart broken or anything. I know. Leaving a string of American hearts in your wake.
But I'm good with myself. So.
Yeah. I can tell that. I appreciate that, actually. That's
Just a plus.
That's a good thing.
What happened to your hair?
What do you mean? To my ear?
Yeah. You had
Like-
the ear piercing.
I did when I was younger. Yeah.
You have piercings and tattoos.
Not so much. I'm the type of guy who would, but I don't.
Why?
Yeah, I think that's true. You know what?
I tell two different stories. I'll give you two versions. You can decide which one you believe. Version one is I'm a perfectionist, and I wouldn't want to ruin this body by like tarnishing it with tattoos.
I like this version.
You like that version?
Yeah.
Why does she ask the question if I have tattoos and piercings, and why do I answer it this way? Well, the tattoos and piercings, it's correlated to something, right? It's correlated to a guy who's anti-establishment, a guy who takes risks, a guy who's more of a lover than a provider, all those kind of things, right? So that's, I mean, it could just be general curiosity as well, but that gets asked so much in these kind of contexts that I don't think it is, okay? I really do think that it's a subtle sort of like subconscious way of asking this question of, are you the lover type? And so my answer is no to the literal thing of tattoos and piercings, but yes to what you're actually asking. That's why I say, no, I'm the kind of guy who would, but I don't. All right? So she's saying that the subtext is, are you the lover frame? I'm like, yes, but I don't have the obvious characteristic you actually asked about. That make sense? It's another one of these things where there's the surface level and then there's the layer underneath. You don't seem that shy.
Yeah.
I mean, I can give you the test, but I just met you, so.
People used to say I'm cold.
You know, it is.
You're not cold. You haven't been cold to me.
Do you want something or no?
No,
Obviously not.
Obviously not. Let me talk about it. You know what? Fine, we'll have a little more space right now. We'll chill it out.
I didn't say I wanted.
Why did I back away there? Okay, there were a couple things. One is she said, are you shy? I said, I could give you the test, but I don't know you that well. And then she didn't ask, right? She didn't ask what's the test. She wasn't curious because I think she kind of knew what the test was. It would be some kind of like escalation or something like that, right? So I wanted to get her to ask me to escalate on her, and she didn't bite, right? And I would have expected her to, right? So that indicates to me that maybe it's not as on as you would have thought. And then when she said obviously I haven't been cold with you, or apparently or whatever, and she kind of laughed at it. I think that was like a nervous laugh, like a laugh of yeah, I just realized this is going really fast. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with this, right? So my response to both of those was to understand that she was saying, hey, maybe it's going fast, and back away, get on the other side of the couch, kind of jokingly, whatever, right? So it was two little tiny subtle cues that she gave me that indicated time to back off.
But that's why people say.
That you're cold?
Yeah, I am.
Not that cold, you're alright. I'm kind of warm right now.
I'm heartless.
You're what?
I'm heartless. Heartless.
Heartless?
Yeah. That's kind of.
I love the pronunciation. I can't even heartless. I can't even say it though. You said it.
What do you say?
Heartless. Heart.
I can do the H.
Really? You can't do the H? Oh, because you H in front. You didn't do the pronounce the H.
Like I ate and I hate.
Oh, poor girl.
Yeah.
So rough.
Like I'm hungry and hungry.
So if I was like, I hate you and I ate you.
Yeah.
That's so dirty.
It is.
Look at you.
Keep it up.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not funny. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no sense of humor.
Oh, I will stop laughing.
I'm neither clever nor witty nor cute in any way. I'm just some dude. Nothing special.
Somewhat.
Some dude.
Dude.
Some dude. No big deal.
Small hands. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have like tremendously large hands, but compared to yours. I'm pretty sure.
About what?
I just got distracted by your neck.
My long neck. I have trouble.
I'm gonna tell you a cheesy line from a movie. I was just gonna try and pass it off as my own, but it's better this way. I'm just gonna tell you as a movie. Did you ever see the movie The Devil's Advocate?
The what?
The Devil's Advocate. Okay, anyway, it's a good movie, but it's an old movie. So he says, he's like, a woman's neck, if she's a woman of passion, has all the romance, the intrigue of a no man's land in the battle between the body and the mind.
Yeah. There is a long way between my body and my mind.
As in you have a long neck. You have a cute neck.
So many compliments.
I'll stop.
I will start feeling amazing. Yeah, you should stop.
Start feeling you're aging.
Amazing.
Is that such a bad thing?
Yeah. I become too American.
Here's another thing that I didn't really notice so much at the time that I'm noticing now. So what I noticed at the time is that there's a lot of sort of sexual related talk going on. And she seems to be understanding all of it and seems like generally okay with it. What I didn't notice is she is okay with it, but she's getting just a little more nervous and quiet. I should have really taken that as an indicator because there was like kind of the gap of like, she's aroused, but the sex thing isn't so on the table. And then there's like sex is very on the table, but she's gotten a little bit less comfortable, just a tiny bit less comfortable with it. Ideally, what I should do is spend some time now that that's present and just let her kind of sit with it and get used to it before I go ahead and escalate. Whereas I know, having seen the set, that basically I am going to go ahead and escalate pretty soon. So again, another little tiny minute warning sign that I could have known to maybe slow things down and not try and pull quite as soon as I did. Putting aside the language barrier and me having to explain things, what am I doing here? I'm describing the feelings of sex. I'm describing the process of sex to her. And again, this is a very, very, very powerful, very useful technique to kind of put yourself in the mindset and the mood of sexual, sensual, and start actually overtly describing the sexual process, foreplay, sex itself to a certain extent, tends to massively arouse girls. So to make furious is to infuriate.
Okay, like fear.
Huh? Like fear? Well, furious is anger, but yeah.
Okay. Infuriate.
To make angry. To make furious.
Because I've noticed that when I have like
To make once to unleash the fury, which you have no idea what that means, but it's fine. It means something in English. Unleash the fury.
Yeah.
It means
Kind
to
of
like
understand.
let loose the passion.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not sure I can be like that.
I'm not asking you to.
I just let it go.
I'm saying it should always go just slow enough
I just let it go.
that you like you want to unleash the passion,
But you don't.
but there's that little bit of like,
It's so weird. Like,
I hope he does.
Keep it cool.
I hope he does. I hope he does. Oh, but he didn't. But then he did. But then he did. But I really want him to.
You know what it is? I think.
If you know what I
It's,
mean.
I think I know.
I look more like a prison.
I do my best with the language.
You'd see like 21.
Yeah, you're a good teacher.
It's like, yeah.
I can teach you a
Like 26
good many
year olds,
things.
Some freak nasty.
Yay.
You might be able to teach me a few things too. Maybe.
Yeah, they're bougie.
So you're a good teacher?
I don't know. I'm not patient.
Really?
Yeah.
If you're too impatient, I don't know if you're gonna be able to handle me.
You don't need me to teach you things.
What?
I think you don't need me to teach you things.
With everything that's just occurred, I just want to point out once again the sexual undertone, right? When I'm telling you, there's a good many things you could teach me. You know, obviously, I'm referring to sexual stuff. She's saying I'm not patient. I think she maybe is referring to teaching a little bit, but I think she's saying like I have little patience for a guy who doesn't know what he's doing, meaning sexually. So notice the undertone. Notice how there's a lot of talking about sex without talking about sex going on. No, I didn't mean as a teacher. I meant in general, if you're too impatient, you might not be able to handle me.
I don't know. I'm patient.
Me too.
I brought my Jordan.
Yeah. I don't believe you neither for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
How's it looking?
I don't know. Just
Keep me posted. I think. Well, enough said.
Yeah, this one.
Enough said on that one. Huh?
Wait, it's up there. Oh, man.
I was gonna say,
You got a phone out?
hopefully you don't, and hopefully you do at the same time. Become impatient with me. You know that feeling where you want someone to do something?
but you
And
don't admit it.
that's a very girl thing. That's the girl version right there. Guys don't have that one. That's the girl one. What I was gonna say, she literally expressed exactly where she's at. You want somebody to do something, but you won't admit it, right? So what she's saying is, emotionally, I'm down for sex with you. I haven't made the logical decision yet, right? She's explicitly, again, girls will tell you what they want. She's telling you, I'm almost there, Todd, but I'm not quite there. I'm emotionally there, I'm not quite logically there. Like, for example, I'm not going to do anything right now, okay? I promise. So the question is,
Do I want you
if
to?
there's a little part of you, even if you don't necessarily want me to, that's at least intrigued by how it would feel
It's
if I were.
intriguing, right?
Exactly.
This is what I want for my room.
So I just don't want you to become too impatient, that's all.
Like painting?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I
The
know.
thing is, like, I don't want to commit
I
too much to
appreciate
it because
that.
I've only been there for a month. I don't know how much they're going to stay there past December. But
It'd be fun though.
I think so.
yeah, like just crazy weird shit just thrown in the room. Just
Unexpected.
okay, this is that
You?
one.
Me.
Yeah.
There's an album.
How so? You expected me to be terrible and no
That
fun?
one's another great band.
I was,
Dude, yeah.
yeah, I didn't
I've
know
noticed
They
what
have
to
some really good
expect.
songs.
Well, thank you.
You know what I was gonna
Huh?
say? Look,
You?
if you could see
I mean,
me look like this,
we exchanged like 10 texts. That's it.
you know what I'm saying?
What do you say? Like frustrating
Frustrado? Me
No,
frustra?
no.
Me frustra?
and fear something.
Oh, infuriate? I thought you were looking for the Spanish word. Yeah. Entonces, how adventurous
I
are
really
you?
want to know, like,
For real.
people's goal,
How adventurous are you?
like, their songs. I know what this is. It's like
I didn't get you. I just
No.
hear
It's the
you.
same question from online
cool,
again,
yeah.
but live. How
It
adventurous
doesn't
are you?
make sense
For
why
real.
they would, like,
Kind of a lot.
Kind of a lot?
interest,
there's
Yeah.
gotta be some sort of algorithm to the kind of music.
Maybe singing after action.
Fair enough. In some cases that can be bad. If you're around the right people, you're probably okay.
Kevin Bacon.
You're the good people.
I'll let you determine. Anyone who says they're the good people is trying too hard.
Yeah. Make your brain.
So that's for you to decide. If you trust me at least this much and find me intriguing and fun, I will try to be the good people for you. Fair?
Yeah.
But as far as the ultimate determination, that's you. Because I'm not going to be the person that tries to tell you that. So here, obviously, I'm very, very slowly moving things towards trying to take her home, right? Are you adventurous? How adventurous? These kind of things. And I'm getting a lot of green lights. I'm not getting all lights green, though. I am getting a little hesitation on things that are you the right, you're the good people. That's still another test. So it's not completely all lights green. So again, perhaps the right answer, and there are a lot of cues here, would have been to delay a little bit, wait a little bit longer, build a little more comfort before going for it. But there were a lot of positive indicators, and my vibe at the moment and my gut at the moment told me go for it. So I'm kind of going for it.
Be like, yeah, that's
Fair?
Kind of.
Fair enough. I like that phrase a lot.
this guy.
I want to do such naughty things to your neck right now.
That guy.
Yeah, of course.
What?
I said I want to do such
So it's a
naughty
game
things to your
that's
neck right
6
now,
ways
but
to
I just am not going to.
That means you can, and this is a real game. This is
like
a
this
real,
massive, like,
it's like a philosophical theory.
Huge neck.
Yeah.
You pick
massive.
any movie, any actor.
target.
You can
But I just
in 6 ways you'll
find so hard to resist.
anything. Doesn't fucking
Just to test me.
What's that?
Just to test me.
To test you.
Yeah.
Why would I want to test
So
you?
you can be something like
I'm patient enough.
If you're patient enough.
you know,
I mean, it's true. Like,
the
if I did go somewhere with you, I wouldn't want you to like
Colosseum is built in Rome. Is
take advantage of
Italy
me.
is a place where Tom Cruise shot one of the scenes from Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise was started in the same room as his film. So whatever it is, literally whatever it is, you're connected back to in history. Crazy shit. So I think can't you
You are a little bit of traviesa.
probably, but
You really don't
they
know what
just
that
use
word
to make it
means?
just like that's original.
You can look it up later. That one I'm not telling you. That gets to be my little secret for now.
So I'm thinking that has like a certain algorithm to it, right? So what's that algorithm?
So do you trust me enough for an adventure, or do you want to have another drink here and just chill?
Like there's got to be some sort
Okay.
of
Go back
common
home.
denominator of what is it?
Or someone's
Okay.
back there like really
You want to leave?
What?
What's that?
No, I mean, no adventure tonight.
No.
I think I trust you enough.
I don't think.
What's that?
I trust you enough. If you call me back, I will say yes.
I like your implication of what the adventure was, you silly girl.
I can say
How easy do you think I am? My goodness.
I don't know.
So there you see, right? A lot of positive indicators, a lot of negative indicators. Probably pulled the trigger a little too soon in hindsight, but a lot of things going well. And she's like, yeah, well, if you call me back, I will say yes, right? As in, like, I'm down to do it. I just want that little bit more comfort, that little bit of it not being the first date, it not being so fast, etc. So now she's told me the blueprint, which is, I like you. She basically promised I will basically go on an adventure. I will go home with you. I just want to do it on our second date, right? So she doesn't have an objection to going home with me. She just has an objection to the pace, the fact that it's fast, maybe the fact that it's the first date, whatever. And so what do I need to solve? Not more value, but I do need more comfort.
Played him 3 times today.
yeah, exactly.
I'm still new to this.
New to what, New York?
Yeah, New York, dating online. It's kind of scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, match with Tinder.
How new?
How new? Just met one guy, which is kind of nice, but we are more friends. We sometimes share a beer, but kind of knew that the guy actually kissed me.
You never had a guy kiss you on the first date, ever?
No.
On a first? Like here or in France, ever?
I have gone out.
Kind of meet somebody outside, and we might ended up together, but not in purpose online. And
I'll talk to him. I'll do that. But like, as far as
Well, I hope the kissing didn't disappoint.
no, I stayed. You didn't say, oh, I have to go.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Well, if you have to, you have a busy Saturday.
I have to work.
Busy Saturday lab time.
Yeah,
What time?
about 9.
A.m. I'm sorry. It's a rough life.
Same way, man.
Yeah,
I went out
bad.
a couple nights.
But in 2 weeks, I will spend 4 days in Cayman Island.
Said it's, I pulled
Swimming.
I fucked the pool and then
In the sea.
What's your...
buzzing.
So you're staying... Do you have like your own place, your roommates?
Yeah.
So here, I mentioned this in the other breakdown, but I just want to say it again. I'm essentially trying to figure out the exact nature of her objection at this point, right? I know it's comfort-based, but I don't know if it's like comfort about going to my place, like maybe going to her place is better. If it has something to do with getting up in the morning, she doesn't want to like, she wants like to have the right amount of time, etc. So whenever you have an objection, rather than taking it at face value, it's good to explore it and try and find out exactly what the nature of it is. Because if maybe the objection could be one of 10 things within a certain scope, and you start attacking all 10 of them, you're very inefficient. But if you narrow it down to this is the exact one thing, then you're going to be very effective in figuring it out. So it's always important to not just treat objections at face value, but to try and really get to the bottom of them.
How it is in your apartment?
Which one?
Even that, I just
One's better than the other.
No, I'm just playing.
One is like that. They have like the radiator, and they just like turn it on certain days, don't turn it on other
So
days.
you already have 2 apartments.
Oh, yeah. No, you thought that was...
Like one, I didn't say it.
You thought I just made that?
No,
Why would I make that up?
One is more your office and the other one is like where
I mean, that is kind of how it works, yeah. It's like... Alright, so the full story.
I don't know, man. I'm just weird.
I kind of want to like show you my life real fast and then kick you out and send you home. But whatever.
Yeah, the second one. As far as like dog and shit, like,
Do you trust me?
it's just like,
So, okay, so I have to tell, actually, A, do you trust me? And B,
exactly.
if the office, if I were to take you there, was like a total mess because we just moved someone new there and it looks like a fucking bomb exploded, like, would you be like, Todd, like, why did you bring me? No, that's really bad. It's really bad. So we just like, so,
Come over here.
so now a couple other things. I'm now seating the poll again. And it sounds like I'm seating the same thing again, except for before I said take her on an adventure, which might imply my place or this or that or the other. Now I'm explicitly calling it, not calling it my second place, but I'm calling it the office, right? So I'm explicitly framing it in such a way that it's not let's go home together. It's, hey, I want to take you and show you this little piece of my life. And when I actually do poll, that's the premise it's going to be under. So notice it's back off, change her mood, not her mind, make sure you understand the objection, and then when you ask for it, ask for something different. Don't ask again for the same thing that she rejected in the first place. Office, it is an apartment thing, so it used to be my apartment. And it still is my apartment. I'm still on the lease. It's like just down the street, yeah. But then, so I moved out, and I moved my staff in, and then we use it as an office, and then I have my own little office within the office. So it's like the whole place is just like boxes everywhere. It's fucking ridiculous.
But they are your own apartment or you rent them?
No, I don't own it. I rent it. I don't.
I want you to see my shit, right?
You're not that rich.
That's not what I was gonna say. But I was gonna say I don't think that.
You don't want to invest in your...
No. There are other things I can invest the money in better. Whatever. Anyway. No, nothing. I love the combination of like flirty then serious then flirty then serious. It's good. Because there are some girls that are like way too serious and like don't know how to be feminine and flirt. And there are some girls that are flirty but they're total ditzes and have like an IQ of like 47, and that's bad too. I appreciate the combination.
What's the average?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Average what? IQ? Like 100. Like 100's average. Genius is like 140. And then like mental retardation's like about like 65 or 70. So like 47 is like literally you couldn't function. Like that's like comatose vegetable somewhere. Like 47's bad.
But they are hot. But they were hot.
Hot little vegetables, yes. I'm not talking about my own personal, whatever.
Yeah, we all made mistakes.
Wow, I didn't even say that. Way to go there. Wow. Well, for most guys, they wouldn't consider it a mistake. You know, she was hot. You know, she whatever. But no, I've never. I promise I've never slept with anyone that has an IQ of 47. It's never. That's so low. That's so low. That literally is like, that's like your dog is smarter than the person. Like at IQ 47 is really bad.
You took a test?
Huh?
You took a test?
I have.
These bitches on Tinder. Tinder's helping me out right now.
I don't want to brag.
I asked you.
I've taken a couple tests. Usually I score anywhere between like 139 and 145.
It's based on what?
So a couple things I mentioned before about not bragging overtly, having it come up by accident. So that's always a good thing in terms of what you're conveying. That said, I do think there are certain evolutionary qualities that are good to have, and intelligence is one, right? A girl wants her kids to be smart. So if she can just happen to find out that you're smart without you trying, I think that's a good thing, right? Also, if she can find out that like things like I was a semi-professional athlete, if she can find out that I was a high-level athlete, I believe that from an evolutionary perspective, that confers survivability on her child. So I think that's a big one. Health is another big one. Here's a weird experience I had. Well, first of all, I will not take dates with girls when I'm visibly sick in some way. Like if I have like a bad cough or whatever, I'll cancel the date. Especially if it's a girl I've been seeing before, I'll cancel the date and see her another time because I don't want her to see me sick. In particular, if a girl's viewing me from the lover frame rather than the provider frame, I really don't want her to see me sick because with a lover, she's evaluating based on genetics almost solely, right? She's not evaluating whether you'll stick around and raise the kid. She's evaluating how good are your genes. If she sees you sick, her assessment of your genes has to go down. And I had an experience years and years ago in LA. I was sleeping with a girl and she had a boyfriend. She told me she had a boyfriend. I knew it before we started hooking up. We'd hooked up like multiple times. And then one day I went out and visited her with like, she was with a friend and she wanted me to come visit her. And I didn't really want to, but I thought it'd be weird. Like if I didn't come with a friend, it'd be an unusual thing, but I had a cough and I came out and I was coughing the whole time. And then we ended up going back together and we ended up hooking up, but it was actually the last time we ever hooked up. So it was very, very positive, very, very good. But then the one time she saw me sick was the time she decided I was no longer the guy she wanted to cheat on her boyfriend with. I.e., if she wanted to have her provider male and get genes from an alpha male, once she'd seen me sick, it downgraded my genetic contribution in her eyes. Now, maybe that's a one-off, maybe it's weird. But in my experience over and over again, when you can convey these kind of qualities and the girl sees you in these categories of very, very smart, sees you in the category of extremely athletic, sees you in the category of never get sick, those are three huge survival traits. And I think if you're playing from that lover frame, those matter quite a bit. Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to show you the office, but I'm kind of like completely not tempted at the same time because I'm like, you're gonna look at it and you'll be like, this fucking disaster. What is this shit?
I didn't ask.
You'll be like, I liked him, and then.
That's fine. I was just curious.
That's me. Just curious. That's why I showed up to talk to you. Just curious. To be fair, I had like I said, I had no idea what you're gonna look like. Yeah? Well, you don't care? You're just gonna be a slob for me? You don't care how you look? Jeez. I thought we had a special. I thought we really liked each other. I guess I was wrong.
To impress, yeah. I can deal with that.
Okay.
I am.
Question. If you could get any one compliment from a guy, any compliment in the world, but only one, what would you want to be complimented on?
That's a tough question.
Oh no, I'm so tough, I'm sorry. This is a good conversational question, but if you really want to figure out a girl's blueprint, these kind of questions are insanely good for figuring out her blueprint, right? If you know what she would like to be complimented on, or what thing about herself she's proudest of, or what was her most embarrassing moment, if you know these kind of things about a girl, you can kind of figure how that tells you her blueprint. What is it that she's afraid of? What is it that's embarrassing for her? What is it that she strives to be? What's the image she has of herself in her head? These are all very, very valuable pieces of information.
I don't know, actually. I never thought about that. So if you are asking me That means that you already think about that. What's your...
I never thought of this before. Like literally, this is the first time I've ever asked the question. I could try and think of it from it. I've never thought this before. It just came up.
I think that would be spontaneous.
That's what you'd like most want to be complimented on, is that you're spontaneous?
Yeah. Like myself, spontaneous.
As soon as I heard spontaneous, I knew right then and there I was going to try and probably cede the pull and try and take her home again. However, I'm going to take some time and let it play out. I'm not going to go directly for it. But that was the key moment. I'm like, okay, whatever objection she had before, whatever was going on before, this is such a positive indicator. We're probably going to try again. Really? Well, in that case, we may have to go on an adventure, just a brief one, just like so I don't have to like think badly of you at some point. But fair enough.
Because small doesn't mean the same.
It doesn't, but yeah.
Cute neither, it's super chill.
Right. Spontaneous, huh? Spontaneous, fun. Interesting.
How about you?
So the answer I'm going to give here, basically I'm doing two things. Number one, I'm buying time because I don't want to ask her to leave with me right after the spontaneous answer because it's too obvious. It's too like on the nose. But I also want to say something that's going to continue the frame of fun, adventure, spontaneity, living it up, not being too serious, that kind of stuff. So my answer, it is an answer I genuinely believe, but it's definitely framed in the way of let's lead a great life, let's have adventures, let's make tonight beautiful, that sort of thing. So you can see the subtext as well as the time buying aspect to it. Okay, so I'm gonna say beautiful, but I don't mean physically.
But
I mean like...
yeah, in general, so it means a lot of things. It's not the right answer.
No, I mean like...
Oh, nice person, yeah.
No, I don't mean nice person either. I mean that I have a vision for life and what it should be, and I live my life in a way that is beauty in action. Okay, so like...
Passionate?
Kind of, but it's like passionate a little bit, but it's like excellence with passion with proper focus. Some kind of combination like that, right? Like Oscar De La Hoya was a famous boxer. Oscar De La Hoya, he was a world champion boxer. But he said, I like to think that if you could like paint the bottom of my shoes before a boxing match, and then I would like treat the ring as my canvas, and the way that I would move around the ring would be a form of art. Not that it's like he's trying to create a visual art, but the fact of like that it comes from the well-boxed match, whatever pattern it makes would be a beautiful pattern. So I would like
draw a map of all your trip in the US, and that's right.
I would like to think like my life is performance art. Like I've lived a beautiful life. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's really like esoteric, but whatever.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I keep spontaneous.
I'm not saying that you should change it. I like spontaneous. Although when we say spontaneous, all these things I'm trying to resist doing, I feel like doing, but I'm still going to resist.
Is my hair?
No. You know. You have the funniest expressions. Like I wish I could do what you just did. I was
Yeah.
like,
I have my, how would you say, my eyes crossing when I'm tired, and I'm sure they do that right now.
I'm exhausted. You look alright. We did the like you went bug-eyed for a second, like it's like all up like that. But whatever. So, if you are super exhausted, you can totally go home. I would not hate having one more drink with you and then sending you home and hang out a little longer. But if you're exhausted, I will not be offended.
I'm okay, it's Friday.
Yeah?
My feeling status.
Okay. Come then, let's go. So that was about the softest of soft closes. The reason I was so soft with that was that she had already rejected the close earlier, so I didn't want to push it. Then there's this thing called the point of no return, which is if you get too close to something happening and you're too pushy, you can ruin it for later. So typically, there's a point on any date where up to that point, if you were to ask her for a second date, if she likes you, she'll say yes. But if you go beyond a certain point, either you get too close to sex or you were too pushy, then you may cross the point of no return, and even if she likes you, she doesn't feel comfortable coming out for another date because she feels like she's just coming out for sex, or that you'll just make her feel uncomfortable again. And so I really wanted to be very low-key about this and really totally give her the option to leave if she wanted to, while asking for this go home, because I think it's the proper way to play it, right? Now, it turns out that she said yes, and there's a very good indicator because I chose the right time to ask her, and I asked in a very good way overall. But I do want to point out that I was very conscientious of this point of no return and very conscientious of not being pushy during the ask. All right. So here comes the part where your French wine connoisseur part can come out.
What?
This is the part where your French wine connoisseur can come out, because I'm making you pick the wine for the next. Or beer if you'd like. Wine or beer.
I'm okay with wine.
Up to you.
I'm okay with wine. I really like wine, but
It's like terrible. Oh, expensive? Oh, that's no problem. That's not a problem. I thought you just like hated American wine or hated the wine here.
Like I used to pay like $3 a glass, and here it's like 10.
Alright, so I'm gonna like tell you right now.
What?
So you got like all right. So it's like right now. Whenever you're with me, this is not like me trying to be like Mr. Rich Guy or whatever, but like if there's something that's fun to do but a little more expensive, or something that sucks to do that's not as expensive, let's do the fun thing.
Okay.
I will. This is a very important thing to note, because a lot of people, when they think lover provider, they think automatically if you show that you have wealth or you show you're successful or whatever, that you're automatically in the provider frame and there's no way out of it. That's not the case, all right? There's a right and a wrong way to use money in game. If you use money to show off, if you use money to impress, if you use money as if you're not enough without the money, those are all very bad ways to use money, and those are very provider frame. You're asking to be used. On the other hand, if you go the fact of I have money, but the purpose of money is for experiences, and the purpose of money is to create beauty, to create art, to enjoy life, that is a totally different frame. Okay, and you're not trying to show off with the money, you're trying to have enjoyable experiences, and if the enjoyable experience happens to take money, that's okay, you can deal with it. If it's a free enjoyable experience, that's equally good or better. Does that make sense? So it's all about in the way the money is framed. So here I'm kind of playing the baller card in a way, but I'm playing the lover version of the baller card. It's very, very important to make that distinction. I'm not putting myself in the provider frame here, even though I'm speaking directly about money. I will take care of you, Miss Poor PhD college student, all right?
Thank you.
Like, I've worked hard in life so that I can have fun experiences.
Yeah.
So don't ever, like, I'm not trying to be like Mr. like whatever guy, but like if it like literally is you want to do something, but it's like, especially like a bottle of wine doesn't cost that much, right? Like,
Yeah, for you. I was not used. Okay.
Sophie, you're in my world right now, okay? Enjoy yourself.
I feel like I will like your word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, so for me, for example, right? So I always liked, there was like certain classes I really liked in physics and certain classes I really didn't, right? So, like, I never liked materials. So that was a really interesting set. I hope you learned a lot about what is lover, what is provider, and how to establish that frame. That's a major, major takeaway from this. The other one I hope you realized is a lot of the subtle indications of when you know she likes you, when you know she doesn't like you. And the other idea is the idea that sometimes a girl's saying one thing on the surface, but something else under the surface. And if you can understand that, you're going to communicate with her much more effectively, much more directly, and much better. And then once you get good at that, there's that next level, which is you can start communicating on that second level to her, and again, then it's truly like almost like your minds are communicating directly. You're really going to get each other, and things are going to go fantastically well. So I hope you learned a lot from that. Next, we're going to explore the verbal breakdown of how to deal with this type of a foreign girl and this particular situation and blueprint.